Faith and prayer are the vitamins of the soul. Man cannot live in health without them. In today's episode, I'm joined by an amazing guest who shares with me a powerful conversation about religion and faith in coaching and how the two worlds complement one another. Hey, I'm Amanda, and welcome to the Best Damn Coach podcast, where I will teach you how to coach yourself, how to coach your clients, and how to run your coaching business. The number one goal of this show, though, is to help you be the best damn coach you can be so your clients go out and tell the world about you. So, let's do the damn thing. Before we get started on this week's episode, I want to tell you about some of the amazing bonuses we are offering as we start 2023 inside the Best Damn Coach community. If you don't know much about the BDC, this is a community for coaches and online practitioners who want to be better at coaching. You care about delivering amazing results to your people. You want to be a coach, in fact, the best damn coach you can be. And you also want to work on growing the skill of entrepreneurship and building a coaching practice around other people who get where you are at. And that's what the BDC is all about. We want you to have the confidence and competence to lead people so that you stand out from all the other people doing what you do. And this month inside the BDC for January only, we are offering some amazing bonuses. Right now, when you join, you will get a 1-to-1 2023 strategy mapping session with me. This means you and I come together, we look at your game plan for 2023, and we fill in the nooks and crannies and the gaps and the areas of struggle so that you feel totally confident about hitting your goals in 2023. The other thing we are also offering is a plug and play option to build your own website, landing pages, sales pages. We have partnered up with an amazing all-in-one platform called Simplero, and we have created templates so that you can just drag and drop and put in copy so you don't have to design from the beginning. And both of those are massive bonuses inside the program when you join us this January. So to learn more about the Best Damn Coach program, head on over to amanda-walker.com/Best Damn Coach, or when you hop on my page, just look in the upper right-hand corner and select Best Damn Coach. You can learn more about the program. We meet live weekly. We have accountability sessions. We have an open community on Facebook. You will also get access to what we call our coaching vault and our business vault, which are done for you resources. So you don't have to waste time looking around or Googling for hours. We've literally created anything and everything that you might need inside of your coaching practice. And I would love to have you join this powerful group of practitioners who are on a mission to serve the world. Welcome to this show. I'm so excited you guys are joining me today because I have the lovely Jody Moore joining, who I discovered your work through the Life Coach School, I think like on a group call that you had led, which led me to your podcast. But most recently, I got to see you live at the Mastermind event last spring already. I don't know, all the months seemed to mix together. So I loved feeling your energy in real life. I was just waiting for the right title, the right thing that I felt like was most relevant for you to speak on. And so I'm so excited you're joining us today. So welcome.
Thanks, Amanda. I'm delighted to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I want you to maybe take us way back to the beginning. What led you to doing the work you do in the world now? And just kind of give us a little summary of who you are and why you're ending up right here in this moment.
Okay. Well, I worked in corporate for a long time and I loved actually my corporate job. I'm in corporate, did some leadership training and eventually some leadership coaching. And my director at the time was coach certified through the Life Coach School. So she taught me the model in a very basic way. And I saw the power of it there in corporate as we coached managers and directors, mostly of sales teams. But long story short, our whole company pretty much got laid off. And I'd been at this place for over 15 years and was kind of in the thick of having babies and sort of lost, what am I going to do? Am I going to get a job? Am I going to be a stay-at-home mom? And Brooke Castillo, who owns the Life Coach School, happened to open up her first ever in-person coach training because this was 8 or 9 years ago. So back then she was training coaches over the phone, teleconference style.
That's so crazy to me.
Can you imagine?
Even think about, no, I can't imagine training coaches over the phone.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we did. Remember teleconferences in corporate? Like you just turn on the speaker so everyone could hear. Anyway, I didn't love the idea of teleconference coach training, but she opened up an in-person one. It happened to be right by where I lived, and people were traveling from all over for it. And so in this sort of lost space I was in, I said to my husband, I want to go to this coach training. I don't know that I'm going to be a life coach, but I love Brooke's work. I love her model. She's holding it right here where we live. It's expensive. I don't know what I'm doing. I just know I want to go to this class. And he was supportive, and we somehow scraped up the money and made it happen. And then on the last day, so this was now the life coach school teaches all kinds of great marketing and everything. But back then it was just coach training until the last day when she did give us a couple hour quick rundown of like lead generation and opt-ins, because Facebook ads were a thing even back then. And for some reason, I just saw the vision of like, oh, that's how you find people. You don't have to walk up to your friends and family or people at church and say, do you want to hear about my coaching business?
Do you want to be my client?
Right? So I just saw a little glimpse of the vision, and I loved the work so much that I was hooked. And so I started building my business 8 years ago, almost 9 years ago, and I love what I do. So it's my story.
Amazing. Hearing the back end for me is so important to convey to everyone has a starting point. And I think sometimes we think, we look at people like you, people like maybe myself or somebody else that's even a year in, and it feels like they're so far away. And what we realize is our beginnings were all quite similar. And it took that one weird, clunky yes to be the domino that led to so many other, beginnings. So that's so powerful to hear.
For sure. And I didn't even go, okay, I'm going to be a coach and have a business. I just thought, oh, I know how to get this to more people. And I started it as a hobby, to be honest. It wasn't until a couple years in when I started really gaining momentum and fell in love with marketing and sales as much as I love coaching that I realized, wait a second, I can make really good money doing this. And in fact, my husband ended up leaving his job to join me in the business. So wherever you are, like you're saying, Amanda, and whatever your reasons are, I don't think that some reasons are better than others as long as you're just not motivated by fear. I think when we're motivated by fear or scarcity or trying to prove something to our ex-boyfriend or our dad or the world or ourselves, that's when we get in trouble. But if it's just fun and interesting, or maybe you do have a lot of passion behind it, just keep taking steps because, we all start at the beginning. So
this is a fun fact about me. I was a high school teacher. So I taught high school for 10 years and I left to stay home with my kids. My husband was on the SWAT team at the time, and the demands for his schedule just didn't make sense financially for me to give up our time. And it was our model that we wanted to raise the kids and not necessarily be placing them in somebody else's care during the day. But I just laughed at like conference coaching with Brooke, but my first coaching was email only coaching. So I didn't even meet anybody in real life or over Zoom or even over a call. And two reasons. A, I had so many, thoughts that were imposter sounding that prevented me, in my own belief and in transformation live. But second, I kind of loved it because it allowed me to work in the margins of my life at the time when my kids were very small and like during nap time, during nighttime, or whatever, early mornings. And so I laugh, but we each have, unique beginnings, and it's that through the action, right, that we get the clarity of where we eventually want to take it.
And sometimes in writing can, like you said, give you a minute to pause. You're actually journaling as you're doing it. Like that can work really well. That's amazing though.
Yeah. And it was my first client was $50 a month. And then my first price increase was to $200 a month. And honestly, it worked well. And those clients were amazing. Yeah. And, it got me here. So
that's so good. I love it.
So one of the reasons that I adore you, Jody, is many reasons, but the main reason I invited you on is because I wanted to have that discussion of bringing religion into coaching. And you serve specifically, not exclusively, but members of the Church of Jesus Christ and Latter-day Saints. And your messaging, I've read somewhere, is like, I serve women with LDS values is maybe how you position it. I'm not specifically sure. But I love, love, love that about you because you're very clear on the ideal client you want to work with. And you're also saying like, this is who I am. Love me. Maybe it's for you. Maybe it isn't for you. And I just think that in general, that's a really tough transition we have, not even just in the beginning, but as we evolve as coaches. So I'd love to know, from your perspective, was it always that way from the beginning, or what brought you to being so confident and clear in your messaging and like just allowing that personal part of you to be woven in through all aspects of coaching?
Well, I did start out coaching women who were members of my faith, but I was nervous and unsure about it in the beginning. So I knew that from everybody I was learning from about online marketing that I needed to narrow down. I needed to have a niche, and everybody hates that word, but I needed a way to separate myself from everyone else out there and be found. And my faith has always been a big part of my life. And I liked coaching women who were members of my faith because I feel like there's so many subjects that are necessary to think through and talk through that there was no place to talk about. Like if I'm questioning my faith or sort of struggling with it, or maybe struggling with a particular leader or whatever, who am I supposed to talk to about that? That isn't going to have an agenda for me. I just felt like I knew there was some good work to be done there and that coaching could be a really powerful vehicle for doing that. But the idea of putting myself out in the world as like the life coach for, Mormon women or LDS women, that have a lot of different names, felt odd to me because I'm not someone who necessarily walks around like leading in terms of my identity with that. But I did believe it would help me find clients. I'll tell you what helped me is I started paying attention to other people who brought their faith into their work in some way. And I started noticing, oh, that's an example of what I like, or that's an example of what I don't like. So for example, Dave Ramsey teaches people about money, and he happens to be a Christian, and he'll loop in a scripture every now and then or something from his faith if he thinks it's relevant. Ray Edwards teaches copywriting and online marketing, and he'll loop it back into his faith tradition if he thinks it's relevant. And I started watching these other people and realizing that's how you do it. When it's relevant, you loop it in, and you're not trying to tell anyone what to believe, but you connect the dots because we don't exist in these vacuums, right? Like the things I learned at coach training were so powerful for me, but I could connect dots back to my faith tradition. And so I just decided I'm going to be transparent and connect dots like that and not try to tell anyone what they should believe. But for people that do have my beliefs that want a coach that understands that, that's going to work well for both of us.
Yeah. And I think we can even have this conversation outside of religion, right? If health and fitness is a part of who you are, then you can sprinkle it in when it feels relevant, right? If you're a mother and that's not necessarily the sole focus of your coaching and there's value to add, you can sprinkle it in when it feels relevant, right? That's when we have these umbrella categories that we really focus on as coaches. And then we have these little pieces, tentacles, if you will, that kind of stretch from that arm. And I think that's really beautifully said.
Yeah, thank you. And it's been great. I love it. As I try to help other coaches who are trying to decide what's going to be my thing, I feel like what we're trying to compete against in the world of marketing right now is the scroll, right? We're trying to stop the scroll, which is tough to do because we all just scroll, looking for something interesting. And that's tough to compete with, especially because we're coaches. We're not performers or I don't want you to get on there and dance to catch someone's attention. I want you to say something powerful that catches their attention. And if I'm watching a movie and somebody makes a joke about the Mormon church or something, it catches I go, wait, what was that? Rewind it, because it's relevant to me and it's not that common for it to be in a movie or a stand-up comedy act or something like that. And that's how I knew like that will stop the scroll. If I say that, people will go, wait, that's me. What is she talking about? And so that's how you have to think about your target market. What will stop the scroll?
Yeah.
As well as something obviously that you feel passionate about to a certain extent.
I mean, it brings up a thought for me when I was starting out because my roots are in health and fitness. And I remember really clearly in the beginning, I was really afraid to share this part of me that drank alcohol. Not excessive, but I love to have like a glass of wine with my husband at a nice meal or something. And I remember one time he said, like, I noticed you never share that. Like if you're at dinner and you share a picture, of your plate, you kind of slide the alcohol out of the way. And he totally called me out, which I was so grateful for. But it was this reservation to be all of me, right? Because of like what will the judgment be if they see? And what will the judgment? And what happened was I began to hold myself accountable to be all of me in this very small example. And then I actually started getting feedback, was like, well, how do you enjoy that, and not feel guilty? How do you enjoy that and actually still maintain, your fitness level and your physique, right? And all these questions came to it. And it was the little nudge that I personally needed. That was like this whisper of like, Amanda, like be your whole self, be your whole self. And I felt like I've had those nudges, throughout my journey. I'm curious what you would offer to, I don't want to say it's just new coaches, because I think it's a lot of coaches that struggle with being their whole self. What would you offer, that might be a reframe or just some coaching around being afraid to be their whole selves?
Mm-hmm. I mean, for me, when I start feeling that nervousness or the insecurity or vulnerability that we have from putting ourselves out there, it's always just an indicator that I'm making this about me. And it's tricky to do because we are personal brands, right? And we are using ourselves and our examples as sort of a model by which to try to teach people, but it's still not about me. So if I'm going to post something online, for example, a picture of me eating dinner or whatever it is, or give some information, people want to make it about me. They want to tell me like, your hair looks so cute today, or I love, you always say things in the best way, right? Or negative comments, whatever. They'll make it about me because we need something to latch on to. But I know that that's not really me. Not that I'm pretending. It's just that it's a tiny little snapshot of me. It doesn't include all of me. And it's me like when I'm prepared to take a nice picture or say something great in the name of serving people. So I think what brings me the most peace, whether people are loving me and telling me I'm great or judging me, is it's not about me. And that gives me enough distance between it that if people have opinions, negative opinions, I'm just like, yeah, they might be right. And actually, if they only knew, like the thing that they're judging me for usually isn't something that I think is a problem, but there are many other things that are way worse than the thing they're judging me for, right? Like the fact that you have a glass of wine with your dinner every now and then, probably not your worst habit, even when it comes to your physical fitness. So it's like, you can judge me for that. That's not about me. That's about you. But when you recognize that even when people are loving you and complimenting you, that says a lot about the person complimenting you more than it says about you.
Yeah, well said.
So I think you have to keep your head straight on that, and we all forget it.
I also think there's this element of being your whole self that you're afraid to lose people in that process, right? Well, and I don't want to make this a rule, but for me, it was, if I am my whole self, there will be people that walk away. And what I didn't see in the beginning was like, well, that's kind of the point, right? It's kind of the point is to be so clear in who I am. So there's no surprises once they say yes to being my client, right? Or once they get inside and come deeper with me in some way, they know exactly what they're getting. And for me, a very important part is who I say I am as a coach. Like if you were to meet me and have dinner with me, you would be like, oh, Amanda is the same person all the time. For me, that really walking the walk is important for me as a person. But don't you think so much of the beginning is that fear of rejection, that fear of losing people? And when you come to this piece of like, well, that's the point, then we get a little bit more confident in communicating who we really are.
Yeah, and that's coming from scarcity, which we all have at times. And especially in the beginning, it's harder not to. But what I try to remind people too is, you might lose some people who think if you're going to talk about fitness, you shouldn't be drinking alcohol. But you're probably going to gain way more than you're going to lose. You're going to gain all the people who want to be healthy and fit and not have to completely cut alcohol out of their lives. So, I love the saying, if you're not repelling anybody, you're not attracting anybody. And as coaches and business owners, we're constantly evolving and growing. So even today, as I, look at in the last couple of years, have added a business coaching component to our company, which we never had before. And there are some people who are like, why are you talking about business? I don't like that. I like learning from you about all the other things you've been talking about. And I might lose some of those people who don't want to hear me talk about business. But what's the alternative? I stay stagnant forever, and you're not even going to have the same clients, the same followers your whole life. You're going to grow and evolve. And some of the people that knew the past version of you are going to prefer that version of you and walk away. That's okay, because there's a new version of you, a new business, a new pool of followers and clients that will love the new you. So you have to be up for the fact that it is a churn. People are going to come and go, even people that you love sometimes. But the alternative is what? Stagnation? Like, I don't even think that's a thing.
Like even personal, then you wake up going, why did I start? Like, wasn't this the whole point, is to make a living doing something I love? And if I'm not waking up actually loving it and feeling like the feelings of excitement and gratitude or whatever, the feeling that motivates you is, then for what purpose, is my thought.
That's exactly right. Yeah. We get busy sometimes building our business for our current clients. And I'm always trying to tell coaches, you need to be building your business for your future clients. Like the Amanda that used to email back and forth with her clients at some point was probably like, okay, I don't do email coach. You can't just email me anytime and get a response. Some of those people that loved that might want to leave. That's okay. We love them. But you're building the business of your future for your future clients.
Yes. Well said. I love that. So going back to just the discussion of faith, I've had many discussions with people around like this collision of faith and coaching. And I've had discussions where people feel like they're miles apart from each other. And obviously you and I feel very differently. We feel that they lend themselves nicely together. So I'm wondering if you can just share a little bit about why you feel that coaching, maybe, I know for you, strengthened your faith and connection, I think is really how you see it. But I'm curious what your perspective is on how the two can really beautifully complement each other.
Yeah, for me, they just do complement each other so much. I can barely separate them. There's so much overlap. But you're right. There are people in the coaching community that think religion goes against what we teach as coaches, because religion is trying to tell you what to think and coaching is think whatever you want to think, right? But there are people in the religious community in different faiths that think that coaching is going against religion, because religion says rely on God and coaching says rely on yourself. Like that's a simplified version of the main arguments I've heard. But to me, there's just so much overlap. So the principles of my religion, the standards or values that I've taken on, things such as like honesty and love and not judging others and forgiveness and these kind of basic values that I think anyone who's even not religious probably shares most of those values. I always agreed that that's a good way to live. It's who I want to be. It's going to create a better life. But there was at times a disconnect for how to do it. Like if we take forgiveness, for example, Christ forgave everyone. We're supposed to forgive. It's better for us to forgive because holding a grudge hurts us. I'm all in on that. But what about when somebody does something that we would all agree is really terrible? How do you forgive them? How? I want to. I agree it's the right thing, but I'm still mad about what they did. That's where coaching came in and showed me, here's how. Here's how you can forgive someone. You take a look at what you're thinking and believing, and you just question it and you nurture it and you be slow and delicate with it and you process emotions along the way. But ultimately, it's just a story and there's an alternative story. And so that's just one example of all the doctrines of my faith, many of them anyway. I realized this is how I become, for me, it's more like Jesus Christ. So whatever it is in your faith tradition, who are you trying to be? How are you trying to live? For me, coaching was the how to. And as I started sharing it with other members of my faith, they found the same thing to be true. And so to me, they just go hand in hand.
Yeah, I agree. And one of the things that I believe about coaching is while we're coaching, and the model is just one coaching modality. There's many tools to put in the toolbox, but ultimately, from my perspective, coaching, if done well, if done, from my model well, it's leading our clients back to self-trust. And when we lead them back to trusting themselves and finding the answers inside, I ultimately feel like that's directly in alignment with what spirituality and faith do. It's self-trust, that the whispers, the nudges, the feelings, all the messages that I'm getting are helping me see that my model of the world may not be right for everyone, but it's right for me. And that's, I think, where the beauty of coaching comes in, is helping. We're in a world where there's a lot of things to look at that make you doubt your beliefs, doubt that your model is correct. And we can't stop. Like you said, the scroll is there. And coaching is that tool, no matter what modality, that I think brings us back to ourselves.
Yeah, that's right. And so whatever religious beliefs anyone brings to the table, there's usually a component of spirituality, whether they call it the spirit or God that speaks to you or whatever it is, the universe, right? That happens internally, right? So this idea that like coaching is telling you to rely on yourself and not God, I'm like, no, that's the same thing. Like I've never got a text message from God telling me what to do. I've only had like promptings, thoughts and feelings internally. It's all aligned, right? And then also, again, the other argument being that religion is trying to tell people what to think. I mean, you can interpret it that way, but that's not how I view it at all. I view it as like a peaceful story, right? Most faith traditions are offering you a story about the universe, about afterlife, pre-life, whatever, who we are, who created us, where we came from, that is a really peaceful, loving story. And what I've learned through coaching is that I get to believe that that's true if I want to, no matter what. In religion, we call this faith, right? Like people can come along, a scientist can come along and prove to me that there's no way there could be a God because of whatever and give me a bunch of data. And I can say, that's nice. I just choose to believe there's a God because I feel better when I believe that. And so to me, the two just really go hand in hand. They're teaching the same thing, but it's all in how you interpret it in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. I also think that what coaching has allowed me to do personally is just learn that self-acceptance of others' models of the world and allow me to coexist in my beliefs and say, oh, Jody over here, like she has different models. She has a different thought. And we are both operating under the model that serves us to reach our highest potential and operate as, a fruitful citizen of this earth. And for me, it's I'm not sure if compassion is even the word, but it's like a respect. It's like, I am so happy for you over here that you have this. I can say that I think there's a lot of people that are religious that could use that in coaching.
That's right.
I believe that to help them deepen their own self-trust and their spirituality, it's helpful to be able to not judge others for their version of it outside. And I think that's what's lacking sometimes, or where the conflict comes in, is that coaching is just a tool to take what's up here and to like fully embody it in the day to day. And that's challenging.
It's so true. It's the hardest thing. Like love one another. That's at the root of most religions, like be loving. And that sounds like a good idea, but how do you do that when you have
a tactical way?
Right? Anyway, yeah, it's amazing. I love it.
Yeah. Oh, such a good conversation. And I'm grateful that you are willing to touch on it. Because as I said, I'm kind of on this spiritual journey myself, having not been really raised under any mentions of religion. And so I feel honestly quite grateful that I've been a blank canvas as an adult to explore what that looks like. And coaching came first for me. And then now I'm, really starting to involve myself in more religious practices and just get curious, right, about where I'm at. And I think coaching has given me a really great opportunity and do it in such a loving and curious way and a non-judgmental way.
That's beautiful. I love that.
So will you share with my audience where they can connect with you, share your podcast, programs? I know you have some free training as well. If they've heard you and they're like, I want more Jody in my life, where can you be found?
Yes. So my podcast is called Better Than Happy, and my book is also called Better Than Happy, which really marries coaching with religion from a Christian perspective for anyone that wants more of that. So you can check those out. What I thought would be maybe useful for your audience, for anyone that wants help with business building, I'm really so passionate about helping coaches, whatever group that you serve and whatever your, special places in the world. I want to get more people having a coach. I feel like with dentistry, for example, when someone goes to dental school, we're never like, oh, there's so many dentists in the world, because we know everyone needs a dentist. I always say anyone with a brain needs a coach.
Yes.
Whatever kind of coach you do. Anyway, so jodysfreetraining.com, I've put together just a mini, like how I think about building your coaching practice and how to think about it in the way that I think will get you either up and running or to the next level as quickly as possible. I'm a fan of keeping your business simple and then scale it as much as you can. I would say to head to jodysfreetraining.com if you want some help with your coaching business.
Cool. And we'll have that in the show notes as well. And connect with her on Instagram. I don't remember your exact handle. Will you mention that?
I've got Jody Moore Coaching or Jody Moore Business, depending on what you're looking for.
Oh, perfect. And on social media, on Instagram specifically?
Yeah, that's on Instagram. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Excellent. Thank you so much for making this space to be with us today and having such a powerful conversation. I am so grateful for you.
Likewise. Thanks for having me.
Every week, I put my heart and soul into this podcast to bring you value and to help you grow as a person and as a coach. And one of the ways, very simple ways you can return that favor is by leaving us a review. So if you haven't left us a review, head on over to Apple or Spotify, leave us a review, let us know how we're doing, let us know what content you love and which content pieces are really speaking to you now.